channel 33, RPM.
Today, they should have been hits! You're watching the audio files. Hi, my name is Frank.
And I'm Hav.
And you're watching The Audio Files. Today we're talking about hard rock albums that should have been hits. You know, the albums that came and went without the proper recognition and respect they deserved.
Yeah, you know that there's a lot of albums out there where you look back at them and say, wow, that was actually something special. But yeah, they just didn't take off for whatever reason.
You know, and I look forward to seeing which ones you've picked, but how do you pick? There's so many bands, there's so many, you know, major label, indies. How do you pick?
Yeah, you know what? I found it fairly easy because there's a number of albums that just came to the top of my head that I just really remember.
Wait, stop. Metallica's Lulu is not one of them, is it?
Nah, of course not.
That was awkward.
Yeah, why would anybody put that as an underrated album? I think it got rated appropriately.
All right, well listen, I'll start here. This is a guy from the late 80s. He was in the famous band. Okay. He's back with a solo career. Sebastian Bach, Kicking and Screaming. Yeah. Phenomenal album. This is back from 2011 when he had his hot shot and guitar, Nick Sterling. It's got the title track. It's got My Own Worst Enemy, Tunnel Vision. Check out the gatefold. This is an Italian pressing. It's on Frontiers Records. Frontiers has been signing a bunch of old acts. You know, they got Sebastian, they got George Lynch.
Whoa, let's not start talking about some of the other old acts that they have. Let's just concentrate on this album because I agree with you on this. Great album, good songs. I mean, Sebastian has always been consistent from day one. Great singer.
Dude's had the same haircut for 25 years.
And you know what? That's true. And he's stayed true to it. You know what? As always, the only reason I think that this was not as popular is just because the style of music is a little more out of fashion.
Would have been huge back in 1990, but maybe that's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Great underrated album. Sebastian Bach, Kicking and Screaming.
No, that's a good album. And you know what? You have an Italian pressing,
yeah.
And I've got my little Italian pressing as well. It's actually Coverdale Page.
That's really?
Yeah, this is one of those albums that kind of snuck out there in my mind. You know, it was a good album. I won't say it was a great album, but I definitely think it was a really good album. You know, if you're fans of Led Zeppelin and Whitesnake, probably more so Whitesnake, I think, than Zeppelin, you'd really like this album. You know, it is a little bit of hit and miss, but you definitely hear those influences there. And you can see where there was a lot of great songs, but I think, you know what, too many people expected this to be a reincarnation of Led Zeppelin, and too many people were upset with the idea that it might be, that they didn't even give this a chance. I mean, you've got some great songs, Shake My Tree, Pride and Joy, definitely Zeppelin-esque, Waiting on You, Over Now. You know, these are a little more Whitesnakey, and I'm talking to, I don't know if Whitesnake is even a word.
It is now.
It is. But, you know, this is the pre-Whitesnake Slip of the Tongue glam era. Really the bluesy rock that you expected from David
That's
Coverdale.
what it sounds like, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So, to me, you know, again, it was two greats coming together as one, and I think that's what the album cover is.
You know
supposed
what,
to
man?
represent.
This tree... sorry, I cut you off. Yeah, I agree with you about that. For sure, appropriate. But you know what? This album didn't knock me out of my tree when I first heard it, but it's grown on me. But it's kind of funny Coverdale was in here, because Coverdale back in '87 with Whitesnake was sort of seen as a Led Zeppelin, Robert Plant ripoff. So it's so interesting that they were back, but they pulled it off as a great album. Thanks for reminding me about this one.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I think even the rumor was that the only reason Jimmy Page got together with David Coverdale was to try and piss off Robert Plant because he wouldn't work with him.
And he still doesn't. He keeps teasing us about the Zeppelin reunion.
Yeah, no, that's true. But overall, I think this was one of those underrated albums that, you know, really didn't get a fair shake because too many preconceptions.
Yeah, good album. I'll have to check it out again.
Yeah.
All right, well, you know what? You had some UK guys there, some British guys. I'm going to pick a band here. I'm going to show this to you. Canadian act from Ontario. Great band. Completely underrated album.
Yeah.
Talking about the Killer Dwarfs, Dirty Weapons. Fantastic. This is back from 1990. Check out some of the tracks they had on this. Dirty Weapons. Doesn't matter. Last laugh. Nothing gets nothing. Not only that, this album was produced by Andy Jones. Andy Jones, a famous producer and engineer. He worked with Led Zeppelin. He worked with Van Halen. I mean, this album should have been huge.
Absolutely. You know what? It is a solid album. It's really good. The problem with it is no one could take them seriously.
I don't disagree. I mean, you had the singer riding a tricycle.
Yeah.
The name is kind of gimmicky, and honestly, up to this time, their videos were really goofy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a solid album, and, you know, taking it for what it's worth, it was great. I agree with you. Completely underrated. But again, Preconceptions is what killed it.
If you haven't heard this album yet, Killer Dwarfs, Dirty Weapons, check it out.
You know, awesome choice. A little Canadiana for you. Well, my next one is associated with Canada as well. We've got Bob Rock, who's the producer.
Bob Rock, he was huge for a while.
Yeah, he was recording in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So these guys were in there. And it was actually their first album with a new lead singer.
Okay.
It was the only album with this lead singer, actually. And I'm talking about Motley Crue. Motley Crue.
1994.
You betcha. This one, to me, is one of the most underrated albums out there. The musicianship is solid. The sound is great. You know, Mick Mars, Tommy Lee, you know, some of the best stuff that they've come up with. And actually, it stands the test of time overall, in my opinion. I can still listen to this, and it doesn't really throw me back into a specific time or era. It's, you know, definitely an offshoot of where the Crue were heading already after a decade of decadence with Primal Scream and whatnot. The biggest problem with this album is they called it Motley Crue.
You know, I don't disagree with you. It shouldn't have been called Motley Crue. It should have been Motley Cruel, because it was cruel to trick people into thinking this would sound like a traditional Motley Crue album.
Well, I don't think they actually tricked people into thinking
They tricked me.
It's what people expected.
You're right.
Because the Hooligans Holiday was the first single, and it was completely different. And, you know, even now, listening to it now and hearing it differently, it is a solid album. And I think even Mick Mars recently commented that in his mind, this was the best album sonically.
Oh, yeah. You know what, sonically, you know what? It's celebrating its 20th anniversary, and John Corabi's actually doing a solo tour playing this album.
Well, not only this album, but some of the unreleased tracks.
Really?
Yeah, that they were doing. Yeah, and that would be a killer show to watch, I think.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is definitely an album that really suffered by, again, preconceptions of what Motley Crue was.
Sure.
If it would have come out as anybody else, they would have changed the name of the band. People would not maybe have had those expectations, and it would have done really, really well, I think.
Yeah, worth a second chance.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, you know what? You had some really good selections there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to Canadian band, a Winnipeg band.
Oh.
This is back in 1994. It's not on record. It's not on CD. It's a cassette. Spit in the Eye and Baby Makes 3. Do you remember this phenomenal band?
Yeah, I remember this band. I actually saw them a couple of times live. You know, you got Mike on the drums.
Yeah, Mike on
there.
drums, yeah.
Jeff on vocals.
yeah.
Andy slamming the bass. That was just awesome.
And the guitar player, who was that? Really good, really great guy. Who was that again?
No, we're not going to do this.
Come on.
No, we're not going to do this.
Come on.
Fine. There was this guitar player named Frank Landry that was on the guitar. Yeah, we know. We saw it.
Should you know? You've seen it, and I can show it to you again.
You know, I've seen. You know, I see the live shows, and you know, I can just envision it right now.
You know what? Thank you. Perfect introduction. Spit in the Eye. Check it out.
Oh, we can't keep doing that. This is not what the people want to see. This is not a self-promotional machine. This is not an attempt for you to say, hey, if you want your copy of Spit in the Eye, Baby Makes 3, just contact us at AudioFiles, #AudioFiles, requesting your copy.
Actually, it's Audio Files Live on Twitter. Remastered. Not that I'm promoting it.
No. For whatever reason, I just ended up promoting it. Okay, that's enough of that. We don't have to do that again, do we?
Won't do it again. Listen, those are some of our selections for some of the most underrated albums of all time.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, please comment, like, and share. If you have a few extra minutes, check out some of our previous episodes.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.